What I'd like to do is have a look at the story which is about Pam Duncan Glancy and a gentleman called Sean Martin, who is a convicted sexual offender. And the recent fallout with that, where she has lost her job as a frontbencher for the opposition in the Scottish Parliament, but remains as an MSP. And I think there's more to the story, to be perfectly honest with you, than we are being led to believe as the public. That's down to the way the thing has been reported, the time scale. I just feel that there is bits to this story that are not being told. Now, what I'm not going to do is make up some allegations against a female MSP, but I'll point out all the facts that we know. And you can probably come to your own conclusions, correctly or incorrectly, of what might be going on inside this big bald head about this actual story. So what I'll do is I'll cover the facts, as it were, and point out some that I find a bit weird, okay? So the two people involved are Pam Duncan Glancy, who is a Scottish Labour MSP for Glasgow region since 2021. That is very important that you remember that date. We'll come back to why later. Now, she's a wheelchair user and a former disability rights campaigner who rose quickly in the party and was appointed Shadow Cabinet Secretary for Education and Skills by Anis Sarwar after Labour became the official opposition in Holyrood. Now, Sean Martin, he is a former Labour councillor for Fochabers and Lanbride Ward in the Moray Council between 2012 and 2017. In 2017, he pleaded guilty to possessing indecent images of children. More specific than that, it was young girls under the age of 15 and indecent images of them. And he also had extreme pornography involving animals, and some outlets have described this as couples with dogs. So two things that we've established here from this Sean Martin and what he has been found guilty of in a court of law, where he pled guilty. He denied that I'll describe that later on when we cover the court case, but he denied that he went looking for them. He was sent them anonymously and they just appeared in his phone, apparently. And so two things that we can take from that. One is, he's got a penchant for short females. And two, he's got a penchant for some very peculiar sexual acts. Sexual acts that some of us may find odd and something that we wouldn't particularly want to deal with. But Sean has had pornography, including animals or involving animals, on his phone and found guilty, pled guilty, unless in a court of law. So what's happened now? The 2017 conviction, in December 2016, police raid Martin's home and find materials on his devices. Here's another peculiar thing. It wasn't until January 2017 that the Scottish Labour Party suspended him, although BBC Scotland and local papers had reported on it. So they didn't do it immediately. They only done it when it became public knowledge. November 2017, he pleads guilty at Elgin Sheriff Court, and in February 2018, he was sentenced, and he tells the court the images were sent anonymously, but he accepted full responsibility. The coverage about the case was not huge, but it was covered by BBC, and it was covered quite a lot in North East Scotland. So the friendship, Duncan Glancy and Martin described themselves as long life friends who met through Labour student politics circles many years previously. Crucially, the friendship did not end after his convictions. Now, recent photographs published in November 2025 show them socialising together as late as 24-25, including dinner for Duncan Glancy's birthday. Took out for meals together. One thing that I find peculiar is the way that this has been described in the media. It started off as long life friends, and now you'll see certain outlets describe them as in a close relationship. Quite what a close relationship is down to each individual to decide what that means to them. But I find it peculiar that I've had this swing over 48 hours where it was lifelong friends, now close relationship, and how you describe something can be quite telling. So how did the story actually, it broke in late November. The Daily Record received a tip-off from a member of the public and published the current Scottish Labour education spokeswoman was still close friends with a convicted child indecent image offender. They remained in regular contact post-conviction. Duncan Glancy had attended social events with him after he came off the register in 2021. Now, the whistleblower had emailed Scottish Labour Party's HQ on the 13th of November flagging this up as an ongoing close relationship and asked for safeguarding investigation. A party official replied that they do not investigate personal relationships and closed the complaint. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Anyway, Duncan Glancy's response on the 5th of December, that would be Friday, she resigns from the shadow cabinet with a letter to Anas Sarwar saying, a serious lapse in professional judgment, serious error of personal judgment. She claimed she did not know the full details of the offences in 2017-18, a claim that's been met with scepticism, given the public court reporting and the facts that we were already close friends. So what we have to take from that is these close friends, lifelong close friends have described each other before, didn't know anything about stuff that was in the media about our close friend, lifelong close friend. I find that hard to believe. She remains a backbencher MSP because she's not been suspended by the party. And I find all of this bit quite weird, right? So the Labour Party have known about this for about 3 weeks before she steps down. Now, something that our English viewers may not be aware of, but on Friday, Scotland, for the first time since 1998, were in a World Cup draw. It was all over. Everybody covered it. That's the day that this story that the Labour Party had known about for at least 3 weeks decided to break cover. I would suggest if you had some bad news to put out, it was probably a good day to drop in some bad news in Scotland, where there was a World Cup draw for the first time in 27 years. It was getting quite a bit of coverage and lots of people were quite involved in that thing. So, do you hear where I'm going with this? The other thing I find quite incredible is, if this is so bad that you have to come out your position as a frontbench shadow minister, why are you still an MSP? Now, something that might be of note is, worth considering is, look at the pension details for MSPs. If this woman doesn't do a full term, that will affect her. And if she does 2 full terms, it gives you the full potential pension. Now, who am I to suggest that anybody of such public figure, an outstanding contributor to society, should consider these things when we only have 5 months left to go from this current government, parliament. It'll be interesting to see what happens come May. In fact, they may already put out who's going to be their candidates on constituency and regional seats already, to see if Ms Duncan Glancy is going to be an MSP candidate for the Labour Party or not. But we'll just need to wait and see on that one. Now, Anas Sarwar, what he said is he just fully accepted the resignation immediately and said she'd done the right thing, and the matter was closed, according to Anas Sarwar. So that's it, full stop. Story ends, finished. So the current status in December the 8th, 2025, Duncan Glancy is still a Labour MP. She's not a bit removed. Sean Morton is no longer on the offenders list and has kept a very low profile since 2018 when he was sentenced. Imagine that. Now, there's no evidence ever been produced or alleged of any type of sexual or romantic relationship between the two And who would I be if I started such a rumour between someone who's very small and a man who is into small women and very perverse sexual preferences and sexual acts? Who am I to suggest that these two people may or may not have had any sexual relationships in the past? That's not my place, and I would never utter such wild allegations about anybody, particularly a female MSP in a wheelchair. Wouldn't be me. Anyway, in short, it's a major embarrassment for the Scottish Labour, redesigned front bench, and a furious row about safeguarding standards. But no suggestion from any quarters that the relationship in itself is anything other than controversial friendship. So that's how we'll leave it. If you want others to see the video, click a thumbs up, put your comments below, hit the share button. If you've not already done so, or if you think you have, double check that you've hit the subscribe button. That would be great. However, more important than all that, unless you're the type of person, as an MSP, sees no problem whatsoever in having a close relationship with a convicted offender of quite a dubious manner, then not you, but everyone else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.